I have to do this testing 1 2 1 2 1 2 because this is our fifth take at trying to do this. It's the Peach Podcast ahead of Ministry of Sound on New Year's Day. And joining me now, thank you so much for your time. I'll say it now. If I don't see a flyer with his name on alongside K Class and Slipmap, like the three busiest DJs in the whole of UK, I would worry. Like, there's not a flyer in England this summer that hasn't had the name of Seb Fontaine on it. It's like 1999 again.
Well, you know what? I appreciate you saying it. We kind of have a funny little joke. You know what? We kind of, when everyone says to me, God, you're really busy at the moment, I always kind of say, yeah, but not as busy as Slipmat and K Class. I mean, they are the busiest DJs I know. So to be kind of mentioned in the same sphere as them, I'm very happy.
You think it's crazy? Because 1999, wow, we all had it was just awesome. And then it kind of fell off a little bit. But I mean, you're even booked into like summer, autumn next year. I already saw an August bank holiday flyer for 2026 with you on. Is it a secret, or you doing something differently from everybody else, or?
I don't know. You know what? And for some weird reason, next year is, it's booking up even quicker. I mean, it's just, I think people are thinking more in advance. Look, it's a difficult thing because, when this whole kind of revival started, what I kind of worked out quite early on was that, you know what, everyone wants kind of the same records and everyone's got the same pool of records that was special from that era. And even sometimes if you dug a bit deeper, it would kind of miss the point slightly because, you're starting to go into the realms of things that, people don't remember. But what we kind of worked out, and I know K-Class do this a lot, Tall Paul does this a lot, everyone, we try and, it's very hard to make your set sound different. So to kind of create more edits, even your bootleg, and it's kind of, you want to be able to deliver something special, but not the same, but you don't want to be reinventing the wheel. It's a bit of a juggling act to try and get it all right, where you're giving an audience that definitely has a mindset of these noughties, but to not just give them the same old stuff again and again and again. And I do see, sometimes I do feel that when DJs, when you are just playing hit after hit after hit after hit, I've noticed that after a while, the impact of those hits, no matter how big the record, dissipates and you start to lose. It's all about giving, like we used to do in the old days. It's not giving them everything at once. It's about telling a bit of a story and doing something slightly different and making it feel special. And you know what? Whether I'm getting it right or wrong, I don't know. I couldn't say, but it's certainly how I approach it.
Well, you certainly are getting it right, and it's good that you mentioned Journey because, it's quite funny when I look, like, when we book artists for Peach, I look at the riders and 60 minutes maximum festival time, 90 minutes maximum club time. Back in the day, we loved playing 2 or 3 hour sets and we could do the Journey. That's what it was about. So I'm glad you said that. For sure, in a 60-minute set, it's hard. Are you putting new music in your sets as well? Because I do think some people think that just because someone's 50 and up, they don't want to hear new music. And also with this 60-minute set time at a festival that's maybe on for 10 hours, you rack up at 7 o'clock, maybe for your set at 9. And you kind of have to think, well, I know they've already heard Alison Limerick. I know they've already heard Robin. Just, the bleeding blatant, that's just from the house side. The bleeding blatant obvious track. So do you ever think to include those in your set, or?
I try and avoid, I know I'm going to upset someone now, but I try and avoid any record that you'd probably hear on a hen night. And that's kind of what I try and avoid. I just, you know what? There are records that I think, okay, take Alison Limerick. It's a beautiful, wonderful record. I just can't hear it anymore. And maybe that's just because I've seen it played too much, or I just don't want to hear it. So I back to kind of what you're trying to do. And listen, I know full well there will be someone saying, oh God, I just wish you played the original. I just want to hear stuff I know. But I know as well, there are some people are literally saying, "Look, we're out again. I just don't need to hear the same records again." I mean, listen, we're all different. We all like different things, and I'm not saying one's right or one's wrong, but certainly I'm in the camp where I like to move things on. And certainly, yes, I am playing the odd new record. I try and fit at least two or three or four new things just for my own sanity in every set. And to be honest, that the way things musically are going, I mean, and particularly with these, call them revival gigs, whatever you want to call them, there's more and more young people going to these parties because they love the atmosphere. They love how friendly our nights are, how nice. You've got to remember we're the generation that kind of, I wouldn't say invented clubbing, but certainly turned it into the art form that it became. And I think there's a lot of kids, even my own kid, my son's 27, my daughter's 23. They love coming out with us, and they had the best time. And Herbie's like, "Oh, can you put 5 of my mates on the list?" I said, "That's my whole guest list, don't you?" I mean, we've got to, well, me personally, we haven't got to do anything. I just like to think this is something that I love. I love DJing, and I want to carry on doing it. And I also, me personally, I don't want to get bored of doing it. So if I was just playing hit after hit after hit, like now that's what I call 90s, I think I would be insanely bored. So
Yeah.
I think there's got to be some creativity and some excitement and some new tracks. And whether those tracks have got a nod to the past, that's fine. But certainly, I think you've got to be inventive and creative in how we carry on and move forward.
Yeah, that's good comments. I mean, because when you look at some of the newer artists like Damn Swindle, that old East End dubs, the new Jam Back, which is like right up there. Oh, my chair just automatically went down. Hold on, which is right up there at the top of people. They all have a kind of nod to the 90s. And I mean, just for me, this is my problem. Chris, my business partner in Peach, says, "Graham, people want Graham Gold from the 90s." And of course, I don't live there anymore. So I'm not out and about in all, in the clubs playing what I play on my radio show every week, which is 60 minutes of only new music. Because I agree with you. I couldn't do that either. And I remember, it sounds stupid. I remember you and I never played hit when you were resident at Cream, I was resident at Peach. 80% of every week's set was brand new music. We were never hit DJs. We started the tracks, and when they became hits, we both stopped playing them. So it was interesting to you see that. So when you drop in the new stuff, is it deep house? Is it progressive? Is it techno? Is it minimal?
I think the
What's your
newest
go-to?
I think stuff. There's a few guys at the moment. There's a guy called Notre Dame who's making very Eric Prydz style records, who I think's fantastic. I mean, if I think of my biggest newer records this summer, Blondish. I think Blondish she's just awesome. She's doing
I
some
love
great
Blondish.
records. Yeah, and you know what? And so many of these records are record. I mean, listen, I've got some wonderful videos of me playing "Walking on a Dream" and just the whole place, young people, old people, all going nuts. I know it's a remix. I get it, so there is one foot in the past, but she's given it a new take and it's absolutely brilliant. She's on fire. And I just think there's a load of good new music that even if people are going, "I only want to hear the old records," I think if you play the right records, they're going to be in. They're going to love this record because it's the same kind of record that came out 20 years ago. It's just coming out now, and just because they've not heard it before, it doesn't mean that they wouldn't love it. Sometimes you've got to almost persuade people that they will like this track. And listen, otherwise, I
Yeah.
just don't see how long this could last if we're all playing the same old records all the time.
Well, Jay, I find it boring, and it definitely affects my diary when I go back, because I won't do it. And funny enough, I've been really curious about, and the last time I saw you play was at Shush, which I think was maybe even the year before that. I said, "What is it?" I can't remember who I said it to. I thought, oh, to Clark and East, which, because we'll come on to that in a second. I said to her, "What the fuck is Seb playing now?" He said, kind of think Eric Prydz, and you just said that sound. So talking about Clark and East, you've just remade Grace, Not Over Yet.
Yeah, that's well. Listen, Clark and East. Know what I love about their remixes, and there's a couple of other people as well. There's a guy called Sergeant Slip from Melbourne, lovely guy. I mean, look, there's a couple of records. Take Grease 2000 for instance. You play it now, and it just doesn't because it was mastered for vinyl. We're now on digital. It just, I think I'll play this record and it just doesn't quite hit what a wonderful record like that should hit. Sergeant Slick remastered it and, well, remastered it, replayed it, but he hasn't reinvented the wheel. It just hits differently. Clark and East are exactly the same. They do some remix where they completely change everything, and they also do edits where they just make things like they were, but better. And I love Clark and East. I think they're fantastic. I mean, when I played in Amnesia this summer, I think if I'm playing for an hour and a half, let's say I've got, I don't know, 20 records in there. I think 4 or 5 of them are Clark and East records. What they do is brilliant. I'm a big fan of theirs.
He told me they told me that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because with Eastie, we go back such a long way. I know how. No, I had some other stuff to say, but I know how I felt when Kiss went through a whole changing, and we all, a lot of us got kicked out. To use that word, and it really affected me terribly. Like, that's it, my career's over. Like, fuck. I kind of so that was one of the reasons for moving here 4 years later to Koh Phangan, Thailand. It was before all 2013, 2014 when everything came back again. So I'm kind of wishing, oh, I wish I'd have been there. But then if I'd have done that, I wouldn't have ensconced this underground back to underground house that I'm in. Oh, when you were at Cream, this is probably the worst question to ask you. It's a hard one to answer. Classic house or classic trance?
Personally, classic house. You know what? I do. I mean, even when I was at Cream, it was trance and progressive. And even though Oki was resident in the main room playing trance, and I was in the no, he was in the courtyard. I was in the main room. Even though we were both playing trance, it was different trance. It was different, and that was fine. And there, some people love the courtyard, some people love the main room. You know what I think about trance? I love trance, but I only want to do a few gigs every year. I only want to do, let's call it 5 or 6 trance gigs a year. And I want to make them so special. And I want to be doing things that make them different to what I do anywhere else. I wouldn't want to do it every week. House has definitely been certainly, more the veins running through my body. But I'm certainly not saying, that, trance hasn't been important as well. I like my trance gigs to be special, and I like to kind of space them out and put some effort into them.
Yeah, I mean, when I do trance gigs, I actually go and find a whole load of new stuff, a whole load, 4 or 5, put them in. Everything goes into record box, and those 3-minute stupid breakdowns that weren't stupid then but seem stupid now get edited out. Going back to, so when I lost Kiss, it was like terrible. What happened? How did you honestly feel when the day, because you went from Kiss to Radio 1? What was going through your head when Radio 1 came to an end?
When I wasn't on, how long was I on Radio 1? Probably 4 years. What's tough is when you leave Radio 1, I guess it's kind of at the top of the tree, and where do you go from there? And actually I thought, instead of doing something else, I didn't do radio for a very long time. It wasn't until Paul and I started doing our music box show, which is more of a personal fun thing. I think I kind of lost the need for radio for a little while. I was so busy in the clubs anyway. It didn't really matter. I had my own night at the Cross, and we had some. But I think at the end of probably 2010, the whole minimal thing took over, and suddenly I think all of us kind of DJs, that like playing things in a certain way, really did drop off the planet for a while. I was doing a lot of private parties, playing abroad a lot, but certainly when everything came back, like 2014, 15, it was such a wonderful thing to be back in front of the crowds that I loved, the people I loved, playing the music I loved, and seeing those faces again, seeing the smiles. And I think more than anything, I think probably more than I realized, lockdown and COVID actually really hammered home how much I miss seeing people every weekend, how much I missed watching people smiling on a dance floor, how much I missed just the reactions of people, or just doing something that people love. And I think COVID was a real awakening for me that, so when it did come back, when clubbing did come back, I really threw myself into it and probably putting more effort into the edits and making things slightly different and trying to make sure that what you do isn't exactly the same as what everyone else is doing. And I think that was partly down to COVID, because I think I felt, if it doesn't sound too dramatic, I was bereft not to have smiling faces and loud music in my life.
So you use the time wisely for sure, and actually, I asked you the question, "What's your secret?" I think you just answered it. Put more effort in because you don't want to do the same as everybody else. So, do you still get nervous? Did you ever get nervous going to a gig?
Every now and then. And you know what? It's not necessarily nerve. Now, this is a really interesting question. Okay, so when I've got a gig that I really, really want to be good, and I want it to be good because I know A, it's a good gig for me, B, it's a sellout. There's going to be 5, 6,000 people, like Amnesia this year. I start that playlist, or else, I mean, even Pikes, where there's only 150 people in front of me, I also stress about that a little bit as well. And those playlists almost start 2 to 3 months before the gig. If I hear a record, I think, oh, you know what? That's going to make Amnesia go nuts. And it go into it's called Amnesia Build or Pike's Build. And that starts 3 months
Right.
before the gig. And it's not nerves, but I certainly put extra pressure on myself for something to be good. And you know what? Sometimes it's almost a relief that it was good. I'm almost, oh God, thank God that's over, because it was amazing. And it's not until the next day I kind of sit back and go, my God, I enjoyed that. Because I think I do heap pressure on myself to do something, not just what you're doing everywhere else. So I don't think it's nerves. I think it's pressure put on myself. But certainly I'll be there in the club thinking, I want to go on. I want to go on. I don't want to wait any longer. I don't want to watch any more DJs. I want to go on. And, obviously I'm not that rude. I certainly, not nerves, but it's certainly pressure that I put on myself for gigs that I really want to be special.
I still get nervous, but it's in a different way to you, obviously, because you don't. The bottom line is we both still care about what we do. We don't take
Absolutely.
anything for granted, and to know, and I think for everybody watching this, to know that you get excited to go to a gig, I mean, is brilliant, and I take my hat off to you for that because I
Thanks.
wish so many more people were like that. It would be awesome. Your passion is still there, your wanting to play is still there, you're wanting to be different, and I admire you and respect you 1 billion% for that. um
Thank you.
and well, there's no stopping, is there, until you drop down dead behind the decks.
Yeah, and like I said, I think, while we've got people who care about the music and don't just treat it like a 90s jukebox, I think clubbing will be fun. You're still going to hear new stuff. You're still going to get excited about stuff. And I think when I look at the gigs that have been this year, how amazing some of them have been. I don't see it ending. And you know what? While I'm here doing this, thank you to everyone that's turned up at every single gig and screamed, shouted, danced, hollered, and smiled and reposted. You know what? You just make an oldish man very happy.
Good. Well, you look, yeah, that was okay. Final thing I was going to say when we talk about that, it's a much slimmed down Seb Fontaine to 1999. From what I
It's a
can see from here,
It's a filter. It's a filter that I've got on my camera that also
oh,
gives me a very red beard. It's not a filter, I promise you. But I do look a bit Henry VIII on this. I think it's the lighting. I don't know what I've done, but I look like a slightly
right.
skinnier Henry VIII today, I think.
The trouble when you get LDER, I'm not. No, I never say the word. Is that when you try to pull things from your memory? I'm thinking of the Prince, and I can't.
Don't say Prince
Not
Harry. I'm
Andrew.
not
He's not a
having
prince.
Prince Harry. I'm not having Prince
Harry.
Harry. I'm not having Prince Harry.
That was funny. All right, listen, thank you for joining us. Sadly, I'm not going to be there on New Year's Day because the flights back and forth are
I
too
imagine.
expensive, and also the whole getting on a boat and off a boat off this island to Samui. You know, Samui is just
Yeah.
crazy. But say thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I know it's going to be a great day.